Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, everybody. And today we are doing another Celebration of Cinema review for one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite MCU films, The Avengers. So it's kind of interesting because today is technically May the 4th, but the only reason why it's called that is because of May the 4th be with you, but I thought it would be reasonable to talk about The Avengers today, mainly because this is probably one of the most big movies I saw in my lifetime. Like, before we had Infinity War, Avengers was that big movie. The big movie that, everybody loved because it was this big movie where it brought all these different characters together from these 5 different movies and into one film, and it absolutely paid off and worked. But what exactly made it work in light of everything that has happened since this movie came out? And it's now, 12 years old? Yeah, it's 12 years old. So that's let's go and get started talking about The Avengers. So normally when I talk about great films, I like to talk about the story with these films. And with The Avengers, and really, when it comes to all the Avengers movies, I guess you could say besides Endgame, the story's not exactly the most complex. This one, one of the best things I love about Avengers Infinity War is that it takes that formula of what was so great about The Avengers, where this movie is bringing all those characters together from all these different franchises, having a spy interact with a 1940s man who was frozen for 70 years, someone like Tony Stark interacting with a Norse god, and a Norse god fighting a giant green gamma monster. In Infinity War, we have the Avengers, plus Spider-Man, plus Black Panther, plus Doctor Strange, interacting with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's just a whole ton of fun. But with this movie was able to be a lot smaller, but still big, as you have all these big characters fighting together, and it's awesome. And just from the simple story, it's able to give you all the great moments. But another thing I honestly kind of loved is the way that it actually kind of presents all this stuff that was teased throughout all of the Phase 5 films. Throughout all of the Phase 1 movies, I said Phase 5, didn't I? Throughout all the Phase 1 movies, we've been teased of really 2 things. The Infinity Stones with the Tesseract, S.H.I.E.L.D. with Nick Fury, Phil Coulson, Hawkeye, and Black Widow, and the Avengers Initiative. That's how, and we've been teased about it with all the characters that have been shown to us, with Iron Man, with Thor, with Hulk, and Captain America. And with this film, while not only do we get the semblance of the Avengers, we also get to see S.H.I.E.L.D. in its full prime, and I think it builds up to all these great sequences, where not only is it mind-blowing for Cap, but it's mind-blowing for us as the audience, as we're seeing they're on this shield, they're on this base that's surrounded by the ocean, and it, Cap says it looks a little bit like the World War II stuff, and then you start to see it rise out of the water, and then it turns invisible, and all of that stuff I think is actually kind of unique. And one other thing is, one other thing that this movie does really well is it kind of solves the Tesseract problem. Where throughout all these movies, since Thor, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury have been trying to investigate the Tesseract and all of this stuff. And this movie solves it as the Avengers defeat Loki, and Thor takes the Tesseract back to Asgard. So since this movie, up until Infinity War, the Tesseract has been on Asgard that whole time. So S.H.I.E.L.D. has nothing to take care of. But then also, I like that it actually kind of gives us a reason as to why the Avengers need to assemble. Where Phil Coulson dies, and that's the setup. That's the setup for them to assemble. Now, I kind of look back on it, I'm like, it kind of seems a little weird that you decided to fake the cards being in Coulson's jacket, and it was actually in his locker. Seems a little bit kind of redundant, but I love the way that the story actually did, and I love that, you know, Nick Fury, even though he knows that they'll come back, because he knows that whenever there's another threat, like Loki, where aliens are gonna invade the Earth, we'll need them to. They'll come back. And yeah, so the story for this movie, while not the most complex, it is very good. Another great thing about this movie is the characters. Of course, that's kind of the main thing we came here to see with this whole film. And every character interaction and the way all the characters are done brilliantly. Where it's just like every character introduction is so much fun. From the Black Widow sequence where she's beating up a bunch of Russian guys, or the scene where Bruce Banner is being interrogated by Black Widow, or, you know, the stuff with Steve Rogers in the punching bag and having flashbacks of World War II, Tony Stark and Pepper at Stark Tower, and also this is the first time where we see Stark Tower, and it officially becomes at the end Avengers Tower. So I love all the character introductions, but when they start coming together and they start interacting together, like all the little interactions with like Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, as like Tony Stark's so obsessed, like he wants Bruce Banner to turn into the Hulk, even though Steve Rogers is like, bro, are you nuts? Like, you can't, like, are you nuts? Like, he'll turn into the Hulk, he'll destroy this whole thing. And he's like, I've read your, I love that little gimmick where he turns into the Green Raging Monster. It's so fun. But even like the interactions when Iron Man is fighting Thor in the woods, and he's like, doth mother know you weareth her drapes? But yeah, the movie is just, like, the characters, the way that everything is done. Even like the sudden rapport between Captain America and Iron Man. Somehow, I've never understood, like, I understand why Tony never liked him in Civil War and in Endgame, but I never understood why their first meeting and they never exactly liked them. Like, you can kind of understand where Tony's coming from and why he didn't like Cap, because you know, Cap was friends with Howard Stark during the war, and so, you know, once Cap went under sleep, I'm guessing Howard Stark talked about Captain America all the damn time. But I think it's trying to figure out, like, so what does Steve have against Tony Stark? Like, because he was friends with Howard. So, like, I don't get it. Maybe it's just because of the way that his arrogance was, that's what made him not like him. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Thor in here, I thought was used pretty good. He was well done in this one than he was in the first Thor film. I feel like he actually has an arc in actually coming to Earth to find Loki and bring him back. That arc was good, but also I like that he has all the interactions with all these characters, especially like his interactions with Phil Coulson and all that stuff. I thought that was really good. And overall, yeah. Well, and then of course, you know, I love the way they use Hawkeye in this film and the way he plays out in the third act. I love Black Widow in this film. Even Captain America, I think, is a cool character in the film. There's just lots of, like, you know, Chris Evans just pulls off this great performance of being this man that's pulled straight out of the 40s. It's just awesome. Even when it comes to Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner in the Hulk, this might be the best Hulk movie. Because really, Hulk has some of the best moments in this film, whether it's him fighting Thor, or even the terrifying chase sequence in the hallway when Hulk engages on Black Widow. Or even when Cap is engaging everybody, and when they finally assemble, and you get the big semblance, and Cap leads everyone, he's telling everyone what to do, and then he's like, and Hulk, smash. And he has a big groan on his face, and then he goes out smashing, and it's awesome. Even with some of our S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, I think Nick Fury is also good. But you can also tell that while S.H.I.E.L.D. is this really cool place, and this really cool stuff, you can also tell Nick Fury was kind of secretive with some stuff. Up to this point in time, this whole thing, you kind of start to realize the Avengers Initiative wasn't really a big thing. He only brought in Cap, Tony Stark, and Bruce Banner, and Natasha Romanoff to find the Tesseract. He was not building the Avengers. So the thing he was actually going to use to defeat Loki was because of Thor. So he was going to use the Tesseract things, the stuff that made the Destroyer, to stop Loki and every other worldly threat. And so he never took in consideration, because not many people were inconsiderable of the Avengers Initiative. And it kind of makes it interesting because Nick Fury, for the longest time, since like 1995 or whatever, had the biggest consumption of the Avengers Initiative since he met Captain Marvel. That's how the whole Avengers Initiative started. And so when you kind of think about it, my guess is, through those years, and he met those heroes that he was going to assign to the Avengers, that idea fit. He probably thought, I don't think I can do this idea anymore. Not many of these people are good, especially with Tony Stark. He's not really a good person. So he had to scrap that idea, and then he went to Tesseract ideas. And so the fact that he took a second chance, still, and with Phil Coulson's death, it's another chance, and still believing in heroes, and believing the Avengers could still happen, the Avengers could still be assembled. And that's the greatness. And the final thing to talk about with the characters on this movie is, I would say Loki is best used as a villain in this movie. The way he is used in other movies, I just feel like, what are we doing here? He keeps faking his own death, but at the same time, Tom Hiddleston still plays the character very well. But the way that he's used in this movie, he's threatening, to where there's tons of times where there's talks about that he's killed 80 people in 2 days, and then he's adopted, and then I love the way that he plays a part into the Avengers, where he kind of he kind of plans things to where he wants to get captured by Iron Man and Tony Stark. He wants Thor to capture him so the Avengers won't find the Tesseract. And he wants the Hulk to be released. He wants the Avengers to bicker back and forth so that way they won't stop him. And it's awesome, and you understand his wavelength as he's the god of mischief. At least for now, until he's taken by the TVA and he's the god of the stories. But yeah, overall, the characters in all these movies. Also, you get the introduction of Maria Hill. She was fine, but you don't really care about her. Now, when it comes to the action with this movie, if you look back at the past few Phase 1 movies, up until really Thor, the first 3 MCU Phase 1 movies kind of already only have 3 action set pieces. But with this movie, because it's like a massive film and it's really where the MCU started to get really good, there's tons of action. You get the opening sequence with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Loki. You get the opening sequence, you get the Black Widow fight. You get the fight in Germany with Cap and Iron Man. Then you get the one fighting Loki, and then you get the one with Thor, Iron Man in the woods. Then you get the one on the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, and then you get the fight with our Avengers in New York fighting aliens. And What's so great about all these fights is they're all beautifully done with great CGI. They're all memorable. They have certain little things, little characters doing little things, which makes sense for in light of an Avengers film. As you like in the shield helicarrier scene, you have Iron Man, Captain America trying to fix the helicarrier. So it's like, you see that red lever? Stay by it. Wait for my word. Or even just the dialogue, which we'll talk more about in the comedy. Every piece of dialogue is great, even in the third act where it's like, Hulk, smash, and then he goes and smash. The Black Widow fight, of course, is awesome. Thor and Iron Man is great. Doth mother know you weareth her drapes? Even the Cap and Iron Man fight in the Germany, I thought was fun, as he plays the Black Sabbath song as he enters. It's awesome, but also the third act with the aliens. And even with the stake at the end, where you have this nuke heading for New York City, and Tony Stark blatantly, where Steve said he wouldn't cut the wire and make the sacrifice play, he actually tries to do it and puts the nuke through the portal and blows up the mothership and stops the aliens from coming and saves the Earth. And it's awesome. So the action in this movie is amazing, and it's memorable. And the final thing to talk about here is the comedy and dialogue. If anything, this might have some of the best script in the entire MCU, as every quote in this movie is amazing. Whether it's the quotes from Tony Stark, or even some quotes from Steve Rogers where he's like, I understood that reference. Or, doth mother know you wear as her drapes? You even got Hulk, smash. Or even we got a 842 out, 8 miles out. Put the woman on the phone, or I could blow up the lock before you can make the lobby. Like, just awesome quotes. But the movie also has some great humor, whether it's Hulk and Thor stand next to each other and then he's like, get away from me. Or even Hulk smashing Loki like, puny god. It's awesome. This movie is an incredible achievement from Marvel Studios. It's one of my favorite films in the MCU, but also one of my favorite films, top 100 films, period. It's great. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.